second. All right, we are live. Hey everyone, welcome to this live interview with Sean Kernan. I'm so excited, Sean, to have you here. Welcome.
Hey, what's up? I'm very happy to be here.
So if you're watching this live, let us know with a quick comment if you can see us and hear us and where you are from, so that we know that everything is fine and that you can hear us properly before we get started. I already see a comment from YouTube. We have a short delay on Facebook, so let's wait for a second. Awesome. So I'll just briefly introduce you, Sean, before I ask you to introduce yourself. I am pretty sure that a lot of our members already know you, but for those of you who have not stumbled upon Sean's work yet, Sean, you joined Medium 1.5 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So he joined Medium 1.5 years ago. He already has more than 45,000 followers on the platform, millions of views, if I'm correct. And you have more than 288,000 followers on Quora, which is so impressive. So maybe we can chat a bit about that as well. Yeah. One thing that I am really curious about, and that we will talk about in this interview, is that you are writing about so many different things successfully. You have viral posts about personal development, about intelligence, about relationships, about marketing, the latest Burger King story. You're writing about writing and the business of writing, about history, humor. So pretty much anything that you are interested in, I guess. And I know we have a ton of members who are interested in a lot of things, want to write, and don't want to niche down. And in my opinion, you are the go-to person to look up to when it comes to that. So I'm really curious to learn from you today. Oh, thanks again for taking the time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's been a fun journey. I mean, that's just been part of all. So do we want to talk about just the journey of how I got to that, or?
Yeah, exactly. I would actually love to hear, how did your writing journey overall start? Like, what was the first place you published online? How did it all start for you?
Yeah, I was someone who talked about writing for a lot of years. I was in my 20s telling people I wanted to write a book for many years, and I even lied about how much I'd written to impress girls and stuff, and I hadn't really done much writing. And so a lot of years go by, and I was in my early 30s, and I went through a divorce and realized I had all this time, and I didn't want to get sucked into bad, things like drinking and just getting caught up in vices. And so I decided to finally start writing. I joined Quora about 4 or 5 years ago, and I wrote there, and they don't even pay me. I just did it for free. And I just started writing about anything that was interesting. And it just sort of took on a life of its own at some point. And it was fun. And eventually I sort of stumbled my way into Medium in the fall of 2019, I think, and started there. And yeah, I mean, I've just always written about things I found interesting. And it's what's different about Medium is that it's not as diverse in topics as Quora is. Quora is like a wild, broad universe of writing, and there's so many different topics. And on Medium, it's really focused on self-improvement, mainly like dating and a few other things, but it's not wide open. And so I wanted to just be able to write things that I thought were cool. And I never thought I would write self-improvement, to be honest, but I've grown to like it over time. And I do think people can write about lots of topics. I think that you've just got to establish a brand for yourself and prove to audiences that you're not going to waste their time. So
I just realized we actually didn't introduce Quora, so it was so obvious to me. But if you have never heard about Quora, Quora is basically a platform where people ask questions and everyone can answer them. Mm-hmm. So I assume that's what you've mainly been doing, looking up questions or coming across questions that you found interesting and then writing helpful answers. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's super. So you weren't paid for this writing, which is good and it's bad. It's good because it's more fun. There's less pressure, and you can just pick random things and type answers. It's bad in the sense that there's not this pressure to perform, and so you sort of stagnate. And a lot of my course stuff is not very well written. I just spam things. I've written cringy stuff and like it's blasted it out into the, and I've woken up the next morning and been like, oh my God, what did I write last night? And but yeah, it's just you go and you answer questions and they pop up on your feed, sort of like Facebook. And the founder of Quora is the original chief technology officer of Facebook. So that's why it's very similar.
Interesting. So did you have a full-time job when you started writing on Quora?
Yes, I was a financial analyst for a really long time. And so I was in this really corporate world and in a cubicle, and I was in meetings all day and writing reports. And it just became an outlet for me to just be creative. And I've always had that itch. And eventually it took on a life of my own. I would have never imagined, 5 years ago that I'd be writing full-time today. So.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I have actually read your biannual update just a few days ago, and I actually loved that idea. I might actually steal it. I'm really, really honest.
Sure. I loved it.
So honest and personal. So if you have never seen that, and if you're not following Sean yet, make sure to check out his profile. He basically did a biannual update where he shares everything that's going on in his life and business, which I found really nice and a really nice way to connect with your readers.
Yeah. And
what I loved there is that you said, as a writer, you can feel so invisible for so long, and then eventually things take off. Yes. And I think that's something that resonates with a lot of our members.
Yeah.
How did the journey look like for you? Like, I think we all know how it feels when you feel like you're invisible and you're writing and writing, but you're just not seen and not heard. And when did you feel like things take off? And when was the first time you thought, okay, this actually works and I can turn that into a profitable business that I can actually do full time and really enjoy?
Yeah, so there's two chapters to that. So on Quora, it was answers, and I was just doing it for fun, and I wasn't like hunting money. There's a different element to it when you're hunting and trying to make money and pay your bills, and it was just for fun. And I think it was like 10 or 20 answers in. I had one of them, I wrote an answer about bullying, and all of a sudden my phone just started blowing up, and I was getting thousands of notifications, and it hit like 250,000 views. And the first time you have like a viral thing, it's really crazy. It's like, oh my God, people are reading my stuff. This is amazing. And so that's what kicked that off. And then I got lots of views and stuff on Quora. And so I got kind of conditioned to getting like tons and tens of thousands of views. And so then I came to Medium, and I had to start from scratch in like October of the, I think it was October of 2019. And I remember submitting, and first, like I thought Quora people would come over and support my Medium, and none of them did. And they were being cheap about it. So I was like on my own, and I remember pushing submit on an article and coming back like 20 minutes later and seeing the stats tick up to 3 views 20 minutes later. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a long journey. And I was like, oh, and I was frustrated too, because I thought it was decent writing. And I thought I didn't understand why it wasn't being read. And that happened several times over. And it pissed me off, to be honest. I was like, why is it not doing well? And eventually, like, I think it was 10 or 20 articles in, again, one of them took off. And in hindsight, when I read the earlier Medium articles, there was problems with the writing. There was issues. I didn't understand what curation was. I was just pasting images into the article without a citation. And Nick Goki tagged me and left a note and brought me into a creative group. And thank God, because he showed me the nuances of like how you have to navigate the platform, which I think is like really good that your people are doing, because it makes a huge difference to understand the nuances of the platform and curation. And but yeah, it's tough when you're starting out. I mean, if Medium were to tank tomorrow, it's like, oh, I'm gonna be like, man, I gotta start somewhere else again. But you get better with it. I think it helps you fight, and you just have to keep pushing. So
did you know anyone on Medium? So any of the popular writers when you started, or have you been on your own? I
didn't even know what a listicle was. And And I didn't know who any of these people were. I knew who James Altucher was because he writes on Quora. I knew who Nicholas Cole wrote on Quora too. That's how I knew him. I didn't even know he was on Medium. And Nicholas Goki, I knew him from Quora. But really, that was about it. And it's kind of funny because like these worlds are kind of siloed and these people are super popular. And it's funny, I was on Medium and I wrote on Quora. Recently, someone left a comment saying, "Oh, I didn't know you wrote on Quora." And I was like, "Whoa, this is weird." And
Yeah. Now, do you have any specific tips for new writers who are going through these early days and don't have the traction yet? I think, like, for me, the thing is always you just need to go through it, and you can have your strategies and your kind of little habits that keep you motivated and help you keep going. And I think a lot of our members actually got a little motivational boost today through that additional payment from Medium. So if you're watching this and you got the additional $500, congratulations. I think that's a good reason to keep going and writing. And you mentioned that it sucked when you saw those 3 views on your first post. Do you have any specific tips that helped you to go through this initial phase on a new platform?
Yeah, like I said, understanding the platform is important. The 2 tips I would give apply to experienced writers as well, and I still live by them. And it's, you really have to keep pushing content. You need to have an aggressive publishing schedule of publishing, at least 3 articles a week. And the second component of that is you need to be actively trying to get better. And even to this day, I look up writing tips every week. It's easy to get rusty because it all comes down to like fundamentals. There are these things that sort of stay true to writing across all platforms. So just always continue refining your craft, because if you can keep publishing and continue getting better, you're gonna get there eventually. You're gonna have something strike, so.
This is so nice, and it reminds me of something that Amardeep shared in, I think it was a video, but I always said, the more you write, the better you will get. And at some point, Amardeep said, if you keep writing the same way and you never ask yourself what you can do better, you will just keep writing the same bad articles and you won't get better. And that was like an aha moment for me. And I was honestly not aware of it. For me, it was like, okay, the more you write, the better you get. But it's so true. You need to be reflective. You need to be your own critic, but you also hopefully get some feedback from outside. I cannot stress that enough. And I have a cohort now with a bunch of writers who are going through my program, and we, in one of our first weeks, we had an exercise basically where I asked them to have their own heroes on Medium, off Medium, and just a few people they look up to. And I had a few students who told me that they are not reading that much on Medium, and if that's a problem, and if they need to follow people on Medium and look up to them if they want to become better writers. And for me, the answer is very obvious. What do you think about that? Do you think there's a difference between, writing on the internet or book writing versus very specifically writing and succeeding on Medium?
Yeah, I think that there's an element of you need to have people that you admire. I mean, I admire like, there are more authors like Ernest Hemingway and things like that. I really love that style of writing, and there's only a handful of people that I really like. And I do think it's important to see people you enjoy, that you really love. And there are still, there's authors that I look at and I'm like, man, if I could just write like that someday, I would just be so happy. And you definitely need to have, and I would say this, if you don't, you really need to look at good writing, and you need to ask yourself, why is this good writing? Because if you can't articulate why it's good writing or why something is a good introduction, how are you going to write a good introduction? The why and the thing that runs underneath it is so important. And if you look at any, most English and literature, like college programs, they spend half their time analyzing writing and discussing it as a group. So as you do that and you look at writing that's good, you really need to just become more articulate in what it is that constitutes a quality sentence, transitions, active voice, all the different things that compose, great pieces. And I would say that it is good to look at good medium writing, but also don't become too derivative. One of the plagues on Medium is that a lot of people just copy other people's style of writing and try to do a version 2 of it. So there is an element of, yes, see what people are doing that succeeds, but preserve your own voice. You got to stay authentic. So.
Very nice. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
You already mentioned quality writing and what, questioning why something is good and how you can replicate it. On your Medium profile, you actually have to claim quality over quantity, which is, I think, really unique to have in a profile. And I'd love to know, how do you define quality writing, especially as someone who's writing about so many different topics? What is your must-have in a quality article, for example?
Yeah, so it reads fast. It has good alternating sentences. It's got a good premise. It's a focused article with a good idea behind it. I don't feel like the author is like grasping at straws to come up with ideas to make the article pop more. What else? It's just got really good structure and mechanics. And so I had a good example that, is it okay if I give them an example of like editing that they can use?
Sure.
Really, it's about good editing. And so I was on the plane yesterday, and this idea I thought of, because I think the mistake that people make is they think of editing as catching spelling mistakes. And spelling mistakes that's like one tiny piece of it. So I'll just give you a snapshot of a sentence and how I would go about fixing it. And this is kind of the mindset to get into. So the sentence I thought of was, he got into his car and drove it to the beach. So it's not if you look at that sentence, it's not technically wrong. You wouldn't lose points if it was a school essay. And the problem is that it's very long and wordy, and it's too straightforward. So right now it's, he got into the car and drove it to the beach. So you've got 11 words now. So if you open with that, that's low quality writing. So what you could do first, there's two things. I would first reduce the size of the sentence. I would say, so how about he drove his car to the beach? So we got 7 words now. So what if we reduced it again? He drove to the beach. We're down to 5 words. So it's a cleaner sentence now, but it's still kind of boring. It's straightforward. So what you could do, instead of that, you could write, he sat at the beach. So when you write, he sat at the beach, you've done 2 things for yourself. One, you've implied that he drove to the beach. You don't even have to say it. And 2, by removing the word drive and car, you've placed more emphasis on the beach and him. There's better imagery. There's the sand. There's the sun. But let's say you wanted to put emphasis on the car. So instead of that, you could write, his car limped to the beach. So when you say his car limped to the beach, you've traded out the imagery of the sun and the sand. Instead, you've now gotten something else. You've gotten a tension and a question that needs to be resolved. Why is his car limping? Was he in a car chase? Can he not afford to fix it? So these are both options when you go through and you edit and you're trying to make a quality piece. You can say, he sat at the beach, his car limped to the beach. But you shouldn't open with, he got into his car and drove to the beach. Because when I look at quality writing, it's very efficient and it gets to the point. It's not when I see people that are aspiring to make it on Medium that are struggling, one of the biggest problems they face is that they're too wordy. They don't get to the point. And when I polled readers, this was the number one reason that readers abandon people's articles. It's because they don't get to the point. That was 70% of the responses. So to the people watching this, I would really just focus on being very fast and efficient, and don't be too obvious with what you write. So I hope that helps, and we can talk about it more in the Q&A. So
I believe this is really helpful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I will rewatch this section and write it down in the comment section. I tried to post it while we were speaking, but I think it kicked me out. So I will do that after our session. This is so powerful, and I know this is so hard, especially for introductions, because if you're new to writing, you want to write an introduction and you kind of start telling the background story. You start telling, okay, yesterday I watched this movie where this and this happened, and it takes you so long to get to the point. I think.
Yeah. And I have another, I have one really, really short one. So like the other thing that's killing your writer, not your writers, but writers in general, is the introductions wander on for so long. Like, okay, so here's one. I always see something like this. It's like a relationship article, and they say, nobody likes to be in a bad relationship because then you can't do anything without getting into a fight with your partner. And like, I'm like, oh, I feel tired now just saying that. And like what you could do, just start with something simple. Just like you could say, I don't aspire to sleep with my nemesis. That's it. Something simple and short, but apparently many people do. It's not a great intro, but it's better than this long wandering sentence that opens the article. And I see this so much. Keep it simple and don't overthink it, and don't give this huge backdrop story. Don't just fill the page, like, because sometimes it feels like people are just saying things. And so, yeah.
Do you have a go-to introduction formula or sentence that you love to use frequently?
No, I don't have a go-to. Mainly, it's the funny thing about writing an introduction is it's about knowing what to avoid more so than what to do. And the things to avoid are just being too generic, like making platitudes like, nobody likes blank, and you know what I mean? Or don't do this. Don't go, yes. I see this all the time. Yes, politics, or yes, bad relationship. Like, don't start with yes. Just, don't be afraid to open really bold and say something crazy too, because you lose between, the study I read on Slate was you lose between 2 and 30% of your readers within the first few sentences, between 2 and 30 on average. So put a lot of thought. I sometimes read books in bookstores, and I open and read just the first paragraph. Yeah, it's a great example. So, yeah.
True. I remember you mentioned Mike Thompson once told the story about how you go to libraries and read the first sentence of books to see how the introduction is. Very great point. I think that's like, I actually thought about creating a kind of a cheat sheet for my students where we collect some of the introductions of well-performing articles, because they might not have a lot in common in terms of technical writing, but they have something in common in terms of how they make you feel like after reading those first few sentences, because you either want to keep going because you think there is something in it for you in this story, or it just feels like one of those millions of articles on the internet. And I think that's it takes practice. Yeah. But on the other hand, you have so many examples you can look at. Read Sean's articles and you will get like a ton of ideas on how to do it. I think that's kind of the powerful thing also about online writing. You can analyze anyone to death because everything is there. Like, there is nothing you do on the back end. Your writing is online, everybody can read it. And this is kind of, I highly encourage everyone who is watching this and wants to become a better writer. Like, you can see everything anyone publishes on Medium, and you can see how it performs. Take the time to look at it and ask yourself, why is this performing better than other articles on the platform or on the internet?
And it's okay. Sometimes I read stuff and it's doing well, and it's okay if it doesn't make sense either. Sometimes I see stuff doing really well and I'm like, what is, and so it's okay if you don't always get it too. Just try to look at what value you can get out of it. And there's no hard, fast rules of like what you have to write when you write something. And as you get better at it, your more authentic voice will come. You'll start to sound like, it'll feel like you as a person. And that's really the promised land, is when your writing starts, your friends will say, this actually kind of sounds like you. This is who you are. And when that shows, that's when readers will be more engaged. So yeah, it's tricky though. You've got to work at it. And the thing I would say is, like you said earlier, always continue getting better. On Quora, I used to find these accounts, and it was so weird. These like weird accounts that have written 20 to 30,000 posts, and every post is terribly written and it's like got typos, and they just do it. It's almost like they're robots doing it in this void all day long. And I don't know why. And I try not to judge. I just wonder, you know, what the point is. I saw one account. This lady was probably 55, 60 years old, and she had written 10,000 answers about why it's okay for younger men to date older women. And I think I know what she's into. So 10,000. Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
But you actually mentioned something really interesting about having your own voice. And I think that's something you really mastered, and that people would be able to tell that a story is written by you, even if they don't see your name, because you have such a unique style and voice and tone. And I think the remarkable thing is that you have that voice across the different topics that you write about. And one of the questions we received from our members is, how do you build a consistent brand by still branching out across multiple content niches? And do you even try to build a consistent brand? I think that's interesting for a lot of our members, because, you know, writing on Medium is nice, but I think a lot of people don't want to rely on one source of income or one platform only. Yeah. How do you manage that for yourself?
Yeah, those are great questions. I've always been a class clown. I've spent a lot of time in detention, so that's why there's a lot of humor articles. So that's something that's always going to be consistent. I'm gonna write dick jokes and stupid posts that are pushing the limits, and I'm not going to change that. That's who I am. And I don't know. I think that when readers trust you and you develop your own sensibilities, and they know that you're going to respect their time, they're willing to let you take risks. They're going to give you that chance. You know, you might accidentally write a bad post or two every now and then. It's going to happen. But I think that it's just mostly about trust, that you're going to try to write good stuff for them. And I think most people they have a variety of interests. You know, most people don't go through their life thinking through the lens of self-improvement. You know, people have got weird, you know, people like squirrels and flowers and random things. And it's okay to be a human being and write about lots of things. And I don't think you necessarily have to do that at the expense of quality in one topic. I think there's some, for a flower reference, some interpollination between the topics. And so don't be afraid to try writing about different things. I don't know, it just keeps my sanity. And also I think that when you write different topics too, I think that the thing that readers get turned off by is they can sense when you only care about money. And if you're only writing things for money, they don't like it. And I think it's healthy to throw in some burner articles just to write something fun. And if it only makes $5, so what? You have something cool you wrote. And I agree. No one wants to keep their entire, you know, income trapped on Medium. And I think that the beauty in all this and trying to get good enough to make a living on Medium is that once you get to that place, you won't feel quite as hamstrung to Medium. I have other offers and things I can do if this goes away. And I think if people continue to just work at it, this is a suitcase you can take anywhere. So, you know.
I had a random question.
A lot, sorry. So
no, that makes a lot of sense. One random question: are your best performing articles your favorite articles? Would you say they are your best articles?
No, not at all. I don't think so at all. I mean, they're good. I mean, I've had one in the past month that I thought was one of my best articles, and it tanked. I mean, there's no clear, the math is not perfect, but there is some math. Like you can kind of get a sense when something has a shot. But the things I'm proud of, like the passion the articles that I like, that I think are good, don't do well. I mean, it's just the nature of how it goes. And I don't fully understand that part of it either. So yeah, no, I mean, and to people watching this, yes, you're going to write things that, you're going to get disappointed by. And with time, to be honest, over time, you get kind of used to it. Like I just know that if I keep posting and I keep pushing, something's going to catch on and do well. And I can deal with the ones that tank. I mean, it hurts less with time. I'll say that. So yeah. The first heartbreak is the worst. So
I can agree. Do you have different practices or rules for the different topics? Like when you write a humor article, do you have kind of a specific structure you use or set of headline formula you use compared to a relationship article, for example?
Yes. Okay, so in terms of the mechanics, fiction articles tend to be in third-person voice. If it's a humor article, I'll do it, which is often a fiction thing, I'll do it in first-person voice. Self-improvement, I try to have a mix of first, second, and third-person voice because I think it provides a good alternating pattern that keeps people's interest. And I've written about this part before. The trap is that you do too much second-person voice. Second-person voice is very effective, saying you. But once you cross a certain line, it becomes a turnoff because it sounds very condescending and bossy. So I sometimes Control F and search how many times I've used the word you, and I try to keep it under, 70 words at least. But I've seen people using it 150, 200 U's in their actual article. In terms of structure, self-improvement articles have more structure. I tend to section it out. I try to make sure the introduction and the conclusion have something in common. They don't want to be duplicates of each other, but they should be related. They should be able to shake hands and be similar. With humor, the trick with humor for me is, at least, no matter how crazy the humor is, there is an element of truth in my own life. I'm making fun of something in my own life. Like the one that's like pinned to my profile, the DNA test confirms my girlfriend is a centaur. That all just comes from me having a girlfriend who's obsessed with horses and rides horses all the time. That's all that is. And so that's what I made that off of. And I stumbled across a DNA test that I did on 23andMe or something. And then I just combined the two and made it that. So yeah, I think if you're writing genre, like if you're writing horror, or action, the key is to slow down your time. You should, like with a horror novel, you'll notice the scariest ones, the passage of time seconds can take pages. So think about things like that. I mean, there's 100 variables that go into different things. So, but that's the basics. So.
Nice, very cool. I love that you mentioned the you thing, because when 90% of the cases when I write with writers who just started and who want to write personal development, business, kind of actionable, practical tips sort of articles, the main mistake I see is that they don't mention you and they are too much I-centered. And that kind of became my number one thing to tell people, like use the search option to see if you are using you at all. And it's really nice to have that counter argument from you now and say, okay, maybe you're using it too often at an extreme level. And I think that's kind of the beauty of writing. There is it's so hard to say, okay, this is good writing. You need to press these buttons and then you will have a good article and it will give you this output. I think for all of you listening, I think that's kind of the beauty here, and that's also what makes it strange and challenging. Yes. I'm always telling people, okay, look if you're appealing to your reader, if you're talking to them by using you, and then Sean is saying, okay, maybe you're using you too often, and it just gets annoying, and maybe you need to do something different. So I think that's the beauty of it.
They're related. The two things are related because when people start to use you, they get a successful article. So they take that cue and they use it more and more. So this is what the trap is. Writing is hard because there's a lot of gray area and you don't know for sure. And there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think writers, we just have to get comfortable with the fact that there's no perfect math. 2 + 2 does not always equal 4. And so you've just got to get comfortable being and taking your balancing. Think of it as balancing things. So.
Talking about balance, do you have your favorite topics to write about?
Yeah, I actually love writing about animals, but I don't do it on Medium anymore. I wanted to, I want to write for National Geographic at some point and submit to them. And, but they're just, you don't get paid for animal articles. And I like nature and that sort of stuff. I'm a bit of a tree hugger, so I like writing about stuff like that. But on Medium, I enjoy writing humor articles and sort of like just testing things out. I don't mind listicles. I do them just because it's what people tend to like. Yeah, I'm trying to think. No, I enjoy writing goofy stuff. I'm just a clown, so. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that you allow yourself to have that fun and merge it with your kind of strengths and your passion, and turn it into stuff that people are really enjoying to read.
Yeah, thank you. So,
let's have a look at the questions in the comment section.
Okay, let me see. Comment section.
I will just start from the first ones. Let's see if we had a few. This is something I think is actually interesting. Wait, can you see it on your screen?
Which one? Are you highlighting it?
You should see it on the video now. When you were new on Medium, do you see it?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So when
how did you find?
Yeah. So I left I left a comment on Nick Goki's thing because I recognized him from Quora, and he invited me into a Slack group, and I'm in there with a couple of other. At that point, they all had thousands of Medium followers, and I had like literally 11. And so I just started getting with them. There's only a few people that I go to for feedback, and but I do get feedback every week from someone on writing. Sometimes I ask my girlfriend, she's an academic editor, because I know she'll be honest with me and tell me if my writing sucks. And yeah, I just think you need to find people whose skills you respect, and who will give you honest feedback in a way that isn't going to be hurtful. And you've always got to have a good peer group of people. It's so important. You cannot write in a vacuum. Yeah. So
that's so valuable. And at the same time, I just want to mention here, you had the writing practice. You have done so much writing on Quora that Nick was probably happy to connect with you and get in touch with you. So if you're watching this and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to message Nick Göke, that's probably not going to work out. But you can always do is use this Facebook group where you're watching the stream. We had tons of postings where people asked, okay, does anyone want to build a accountability group or editing group? You can always share a post like that. We will approve that. As Sean said, getting that feedback is so valuable. And you kind of need to match the skill set of each other also. So I think there is no absolute answer to that. It's just it's so valuable.
Yeah, and I think that also, sorry if I interrupted, it's good for you to give feedback too. I think that that's a good exercise for you. So find people that you know that are kind of in your circle, and just look for ways we scratch each other's back, basically, trade feedback.
Yeah. So. And you also see others' articles differently. You might not realize your own mistakes all the time if you're making them for the 10th time in a row, but you will realize why something, feels wrong in another person's article. So that's really powerful. There is one. What do you do when you have too many ideas in one article? And I think that's actually something that's very common, that people try to put 5 stories into one story and struggle to cut it down.
So I have a sticky notes app on I have a big monitor that I'm on right now in my home. And so I just cut out things. And I paste things that don't fit, and I paste them into this runoff document so that you don't lose it, and you don't have to be afraid of losing it. And one exercise too is you can move the best stuff to the top. Don't even worry about where it fits. Just copy and paste it and move it to the top of your document. If it's starting, I wish I could see what he had, but it's just a matter of like working through it and making sure that there's a logical. Sometimes it sounds like there's probably a gap between some of your ideas. So look for ways to segue those two ideas, put a sentence between them, almost like you have the 2 circles and you put a line between them, like what would connect those 2 ideas. That's the best way to do it. And also don't overthink it too. You don't want to wander all over the place. So yeah.
I just saw that there was one kind of sub question to that that said, could you break out in several pieces so you keep the one piece centered around one idea? I think that's totally depends on what exactly you're writing.
So yes, so I know what to do for that. So sometimes I have an idea for a piece and I get 600 words into it and I realize it's not strong enough to be its own article. So I have 100, 200 drafts that a lot of them are partially finished things. What ends up happening is one of those unfinished, so I had that one successful article, The Highly Intelligent People. Like one of those sections was originally going to be its own article, but it wasn't strong enough. So what I did is I just condensed it down the best parts and made it a section. So don't get demoralized if you have something that's not quite strong enough. Just sit on it, put it to the side, and focus on what you can finish. So
very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use a plagiarism checker? That was kind of an issue on Medium in the past months when I feel like a lot of people were suddenly worried about plagiarizing work without doing that on purpose, etc. I don't know if you came across that. I know that in our group there was kind of a debate of basically plagiarizing without being aware of it and not knowing how to actually prevent that. Do you worry about it? Do you use those checkers?
No, I don't. I mean, I have my own voice, and I think if you have a one-off case where your article is really similar to something, I don't think Medium's going to flip out on you. But if you have a pattern of behavior where your articles are strikingly similar to someone else's, then it's an issue. Also, I cite sources. I hyperlink when I found a good study and make sure that I've connected it to something. And I think that doing that also conveys, that you care about sources too. But no, I mean, maybe I should check. Shoot, I mean, the internet's a big place. I guess anything can happen. And also maybe that's a good cue for you guys to really focus on your voice and being unique. Give your opinions and have your own take on things. And if you're getting worried, maybe that's a sense that you need to tweak the article and make it your own and focus on your voice. So
very nice.
Yeah.
Do you want to share your favorite publications? Do you have favorite publications?
Yeah, really. I mean, I write a lot for several pubs, but no, I don't really have a favorite pub. No. So good question.
Do you think about SEO at all?
No, I don't worry about that at all. Sometimes they just take off, but I don't know. I just write the article and sometimes it picks up on, I really had one article get really good SEO. It was the results of the Nazi IQ tests. And that ended up getting every time you typed in Nazi IQ test, and I don't know why people were typing that, but it would take them to my article and I was getting a lot of views. So no, I don't worry I just worry about making the article fun to read. So.
Talking about fun to read, did you ever question your own abilities as a writer? Yeah. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning on how to keep going, but did you ever face the struggle where you thought that maybe it's not the right thing for you and you should give up?
Oh my God, I still think that all the time. Of course, that's healthy. The other day, someone on Facebook said, I saw a writer and she posted, I don't need help from anyone. I just need Medium to give me a break. And I saw that and I was like, this person is doomed. They're not going to do well. And you've got to, of course I have doubts about it. And I think it's healthy, and don't beat yourself up and let it become this toxic thing. But oh my God, yeah, I look at writing all the time and I'm like, oh, this is a hot mess. And I'll tell you, this is, it's really, really important that you have an honest dialogue with yourself about your articles. And I all the time, I look at drafts and I verbally say, what is wrong with this? Why is this not working? And it's really important to say it out loud and ask the question, because when you ask the question, there's just something about it that helps you surface the answer. So get into the habit of talking to yourself about your writing. Like, what is going on here? This feels boring, and give yourself a compass to get to the answer, because you'll get better and better at it with time. But yeah, I mean, I question my abilities all the time, 100%. Yeah.
Do you know how long it takes you to finish an article on average?
I don't usually I don't like to track it, because I was in that world in corporate for so long, and we tracked everything, like how much time we think. And so I think it's hours. It's a few hours. I mean, I don't know. And, you know, it's just a matter of getting the ideas to, I think of ideas like when I'm walking and listening to podcasts. And so, no, I don't track, but it's not like a 20-hour endeavor. No. So.
There is one thing that I think is actually interesting for a lot of people here. How popular is humor writing on Medium?
Not that popular. It's tough. I mean, there's just humor. The thing about humor too is it's very culture specific. So I make a lot of like goofy potty humor articles, and it's, you know, it just doesn't always work for everyone. But no, it's difficult to make a living. And also Slackjaw is like the most picky pub in the world, like about humor. I think I've been rejected from them like 11 times. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I gave up on them. But no, you won't make a living writing humor, really. Or maybe some people do. I don't know. So
I'm just checking the last questions that came in. There is so much different stuff. Let me just check, and you can scroll through the comment section and see if there's anything you want to highlight here. So
let's see. SEO. My draft is bang on 71 views. Very good. Where does Sean write outside of Medium? I do write on Newsbreak, but I'm kind of sketched out on that platform. It's just kind of a weird scene. I'm ghost writing a lot as well, and I might eventually write a bigger book that'll be to try and sell. I want to get on with a bigger publication if I do it. Yeah.
There's actually one question.
Yeah.
What will your book be about?
I would probably do something maybe in the self-improvement realm, or it would be a straight like fantasy novel. Like I love like dorky stuff, like Lord of the Rings style stuff. It would be, you know, at this point it would be a fantasy novel would be more a passion project. A self-improvement style novel would be something to pay the bills. So right now I'm kind of booked up on gigs. I can't do anything else, but it's fun to think about, and we'll see. So let's see here. Let's see.
There is now I got it. I had to read this twice by Rocky. When you are about to write an idea, part of an entire article, do you stop to think of the strategy of how you want to convey your idea? Does it become second nature after a while?
The answer is yes to both. It does become second nature on some level. That's such a good question. Yeah, you're just always thinking about what is the hook? How do you make this interesting? Because people's time is so valuable. It's like a big thing to ask someone to spend their time reading your stuff. And yeah, the strategy is always to get some good detail, to stick to them. It's funny because if you really get down to the mechanics of writing, kind of the boring things we talk about over and over again about active voice and alternating sentence and detail, that has a way of just lifting whatever strategy you have in the first place. It becomes a bit of a sensibility too when you write it. You kind of just sometimes I look at something and I'm like, I mean, this is trash. I've got to fix this. And I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe I should have a more articulated strategy. I will say this. I do try to section things out and break it up and not have giant paragraphs. Yeah, I can't think of anything. Sorry. So
I think that's really interesting because at some point, I believe a lot of what you do becomes intuitive. That has a good side because it just takes you less time and effort to get the writing done because you just have the feeling for it.
Yeah.
At the same time, that's probably also when it gets dangerous, because you don't question it that much, and you might quickly, get into that loop of thinking that it's good enough and not trying to improve that much anymore.
100% agree. And I was just about to say something very similar, because you'll get better and you'll figure things out, and your articles will start doing better. And it's very easy to get married to the idea, kind of going back to the second person voice. I still think second person voice is very, very effective. And I think you should definitely use it a lot when you're writing self-improvement. But it's like a fruit, and a fruit is good for a certain amount of time, and then it rots. And so you just have to strike the balance and definitely challenge your assumptions, because there are ways to improve that you don't think about. And also the beautiful thing, and it's also cringy, is that there will come a point, I can't read some of my older writing. I think it's horrible. I really, even stuff from earlier on Medium, I think it's just trash. And you have to learn to appreciate that you hate it, because that's the sign of progress. And I hope a day comes where I hate everything I'm writing today. I hope a day comes where that happens. So embrace that cringe. So
I feel that so much, and I feel like it's just, I need to be honest about that. I think if someone would go into kind of a feedback session with me, and they would show me my article of 6 months ago or a year ago, I would probably tell them 1,000 things that are wrong with that article, and I think that's a good thing. That might sound very weird now, as particularly for me, like someone who's sharing how I do it with others, but that's the honest truth. You become better every single day if that's your aim. If you are really trying to become better, if you care about the person at the other end, if it's not all about follower count and money, and of course we all need to pay the bills, we all want to make money doing that, and I think the beauty of Medium is actually that making money and making an impact is basically the same thing, because you only make money if people spend time on your article, and nobody will spend time on your article if they don't genuinely enjoy it. So they will always feel something if they spend time on your pieces. And maybe they hate you for what you've written, but then it still means that it's good writing, because otherwise they might just close the window.
Yeah, and this is a good segue too. You have to remember too, and I'm definitely conscious of this, that Medium has big time editors that are sitting behind the curtain watching what we're doing. And if you're conducting yourself in a way that's sort of self-serving, it's not going to reflect well with them. They're not going to like it. So ultimately, I mean, we've got to keep trying to get better and deliver a product that's good for the platform. And so
I just saw one more question that I think might be interesting to a lot of people here. Do you have any general templates for titles, and how do you choose topics or premises?
Yeah, so the titles need to be easy to understand. I think that I read some study that a lot of readers only read the first 3 and the last 3 words of a title. So I try to make sure there's some sort of substance at those sides of it. I try not to make a title much longer than 10 words. I try not to be, I've actually had 3 articles stripped in the past 2 months, because they're cracking down on titles right now. And I'm trying to think what they were. 3 signs you're trending dumber in life got stripped. And that one got featured too. And so you've got to be very careful with preying on people's emotions and insecurities. I think titles are a whole art and science. I'm still learning it myself, because when I came here from Quora, I'd never written a title before.
Right.
Yeah. So it would be cool if there was like a way we could like not have to write titles, and the content goes. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, listicles are the easiest titles to write, just because you can just structure it that way. Yeah, I'm still working on my title game. I need to get better. So.
In my opinion, the easiest way, or kind of the simplest thing you can do, is just look at what you are clicking on and ask yourself why you're clicking on it. Because if you look at your Medium homepage, you will ignore a ton of the articles you see there, and you will just find a few of them interesting. Yeah. And your readers might be similar to you. So ask yourself, why did that make me click? And is there a way use a similar structure for my own writing.
Yeah.
Because might not be true for everyone and for every topic, but I think quite often we are similar to our readers.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that you can immediately do by just making time for it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Sometimes I see a title and I'm like, wow, you bastard, that's such a good title. And I'm like, oh man, that's so good. And so that's definitely a good reminder to think about that. Yeah.
I know I said last question, but I just saw one more that I think might be very nice to answer. So Tony just asked.
My pet peeve. Oh my God. I don't know that I want to say all of them here, but you know, I don't like fear tactics and trying to scare people that the world is going to end and things like that. I don't like seeing that when people are trying to just make people afraid and resorting to, you know, it's going to be an apocalypse tomorrow and all this, because I think it just makes people worry, and you're doing it to just help yourself out and get more clicks. And I think that's the one main thing. I get annoyed. All right. So I get annoyed when I see people write 1,000 articles about narcissism, and they only talk about how bad everyone else is, and there's never any pure self-critique. Like every partner they've had is a narcissist, and they've never made a single mistake in any relationship they've had. I get annoyed with those a little bit because, all right, I should stop talking. So.
No, it's interesting. That's really interesting. You know, the two of us, we never talk to each other, so I have no idea what you like reading, and what, you know, I had no idea if we have a lot to talk about. But on a personal level, I totally agree with you. And again, it's a totally personal choice. If you want to write about how bad the world is and how bad certain people are or certain industries are, go ahead. I think there is money in it because people like to read it. My personal premise is with each article I write, I hope to make the world a little bit better. I know that my article is not going to change the world, but if 5 people read it today and they have a smile on their face for like 3 seconds, you know, I cannot change the entire world, but I can try to make someone's day a bit better. That's my personal goal. Doesn't need to be yours, but
no, yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think it's definitely worth doing, and I think as writers, we all have to sort of reconcile that, like, we have to make some concessions in the things we want to do. Like, I don't love writing listicles, I don't love writing certain titles, but like when you get burned a bunch of times and people don't click on things, you're sort of forced to like rethink all of that and come up with titles. So for me, it's always a tug and a pull between, you know, I don't want to be a sellout. I want to be a writer too. And I don't want to use these clickbaity titles, but at the same time, I need to have some sort of strategy to generate curiosity. And there's not a straightforward answer to that. And maybe that's why it's good to just mix it up and write crazy articles. I think that's part of why I do it too, just it's a palate cleanser, a way of, you know, feeling bad about, you know, some of the titles you write. But yeah, no, this is just any job you get in any environment, you're going to have to make trade-offs and do things you don't want to do. And yeah, this is the battle we face. So, but yeah, I think it's great. Make the world a better place. So
how do you personally define clickbait? Now that's something I'm interested in.
Yeah. So like if you exaggerate, so I'll tell you, here's an example. I saw an article when I first joined, and the title was, a woman had written an article, I have trouble saying no to sex. And so of course I'm a guy and I click on it, and it turns out she actually doesn't have trouble saying no to sex. She just thinks about it a lot and then says no. And so it was sort of baiting on this premise that it was going to be a very sexual article. And I think that when the premise of the title is not delivered upon in the article, that's when you cross the line. Or if you say like, if you exaggerate what will happen, if you say this will destroy your life, and what they describe is not really going to destroy your life. Or if, I mean, I think that yeah, it's mainly just, it's a gray area for sure. And understanding that gray area is really, I mean, a key thing to making money on Medium and succeeding and not pissing off the platform. So.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful to hear, especially for people who are just starting, because it's so hard to understand what the difference between a good art or good title and a title that has chance to succeed on Medium has, because now it's getting even more difficult. At least, you know, everyone I talk to, even experienced writers, find it more difficult now because it's just, they're sort of changing the rules or trying to make changes. And I think for me, I would define it the exact same way. Like, if you make a bold promise and you deliver on that promise in your title, well, then you have probably written a great story and have something to share.
Yes. And baiting too is like when you bait their emotions too. If you're baiting them, like if you're triggering them somehow, I'm trying to think of an example, but yeah, just things that are gonna like hook into some sort of insecurity. So like if you want to get stripped, one article that always gets stripped, if you write an article, non-physical things that make women more attractive, right there, you will get stripped, and it tends to go viral. I've seen this happen a bunch of times, and it's even happened to me because it's physical appearance, and that's a thing that's very sensitive. And so you honestly, the thing that stinks is you have to learn this the hard way a lot of the time. And if you think that popular writers don't have hiccups, you're mistaken. I mean, we get burned all the time we have an article going fully viral and they strip it and it just tanks. So
yeah. If you don't know what we're talking about, head over to Zuli's YouTube channel, Zuli Rain on YouTube, and she has recently recorded a video about it where she explains it all in detail and how it actually happened to her just recently. Do you know her video and that she kind of had the exact same situation?
No, but I will check it out for sure. She's got a great YouTube channel, probably the best Medium. I mean, one of the best Medium YouTube channels, and but they are stripping a lot of articles right now. And the thing I always say is if they get stripped, it's actually a lot of the times it's better for your stuff that is curated. So you will see a bump and not even realize it. Like I've seen some older stuff kind of like elevating because they're stripping so many articles right now. And so it's you know what happens is they review the earnings each month, and they know which articles make a lot of money. And I guarantee you, they see this list, and some of the titles in that list should not have made the money they made. And that's why they get really aggressive. So that's what I think, at least. So.
Yeah, I think so too, to be honest. But recently, I feel like they are actually stopping the articles from making the money. So in the past, I feel like they've been quite late to catching those articles. I feel like there are more people doing it right now, so they're catching it earlier. But that's just my personal feeling.
No, I've seen articles going viral and I'm like, oh no, not that one, because we're all going to get in trouble for it and they're going to strip our earnings or something. And like, I've seen them taking off and it's like a train wreck. You're watching it happen. It's clickbait. And it breaks so many rules and no one caught it. And I've even emailed and be like, you guys don't want this one to make $20,000. Don't let it happen. We're all going to get in trouble. So.
All right, Sean, this has been amazing. I need to be honest, I think that has been one of the most helpful and valuable interviews we did since I started, to be honest. I know we covered a lot of the basics in the past months, and I feel like this was really different and in-depth. Thank you so much for your time and for being so open and honest. I really appreciate it. I'm sure that all our members and listeners appreciate it as well. I think that was a ton of value. Keep doing what you're doing. For all of you who watch this or watching the replay, make sure to check out Sean's profile. You can find a ton of amazing stuff there. And even if you don't want to read humor or marketing or whatever he writes, you will learn so many lessons from how he writes. So the best way to spend the rest of your day is probably analyzing Sean's articles in depth.
Well, thank you. It's been fun. Thank you to everyone that's stuck through this, and I hope you guys have learned something. And yeah, I'll see you all on the other side. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Sean.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, guys.